My name is Emmeline. I'm a 34-year-old stay-at-home mom. I live with my same-age husband, Reynold, and our second-grade daughter, Wendy. After my father-in-law passed away due to illness a few years ago, we moved to a house near my mother-in-law's place, fearing she would be lonely on her own. It was my husband's idea, and since my parents lived nearby as well, it seemed convenient for visiting both families. I have two major concerns in my life. The first is my husband's constant affairs. Reynolds struggles to say no when women flirt with him, and he is easily distracted by new attractions. There were signs of this even when we were dating, but he had vowed to be faithful to me when he proposed. Perhaps it was my fault for choosing him, but I trusted him at that time. Nevertheless, he remained unchanged even after our marriage. Most of his infidelity was indirect, like exchanging messages, but we once nearly divorced due to his reckless behavior. During this crisis, Reynolds seemed genuinely remorseful. Considering my remaining feelings for him and our young daughter, I chose to rebuild our relationship rather than divorce. Still, whenever I see him glued to his phone, I can't help but suspect he is in contact with someone else. The second concern is the presence of my mother-in-law in the neighborhood. Since we moved here, she visits our home without notice whenever she has free time, nagging me relentlessly before she leaves. Initially, I figured she was lonely and tried to be understanding, but her behavior has escalated over time. By the time I realized how unreasonable she was, it was too late to do much about it. She would ruin the food I was preparing, criticize everything even down to the contents of my garbage bags, and generally do whatever she wanted. When I complained, Reynolds would just shrug it off with a silly grin. What's worse, mother-in-law always intervenes in our fights. Apparently, Reynolds would often complain to her, getting her on his side. When we argued about his infidelity in the past, she would side with him, saying, "No wonder he doesn't want to come home to a nagging wife like you." I was utterly shocked. Whenever mother-in-law attacks me, she always adds, "If only you had given birth to a boy." It's an outdated view that doesn't fit in today's world. I mean, how is that relevant right now? Every time she says that, I retort in my mind, after all, we're an ordinary family, and it's not like we're a prestigious family needing a male heir. I have to deal with my cheating, mother-obsessed husband and my mother-in-law who loves both her son and bullying her daughter-in-law. In this daily life filled with problems about the two of them, my daughter's smile is my only hope. I have thought about divorce numerous times, but as I'm currently unemployed and a full-time housewife, I worry about financial stability. Thinking about my growing daughter, I don't want to make her life harder. More importantly, I couldn't bear to take away her beloved father, so I have been unable to make the decision to divorce. One day, my daughter showed me a portrait she drew of me at school. In the picture, I was holding her hand and smiling. She's gotten quite good at drawing, I noticed. I smiled, feeling proud of my daughter's progress. Because of her, I can still keep going, as I stroked her head, saying, "Thank you." She grinned shyly. Then, on another regular day, while I was doing housework after seeing my husband and daughter off to work and school, my mother-in-law called. She had something for me and wanted me to come over to her house immediately. The call was demanding that I come to my mother-in-law's house immediately because she needed something. "Why don't you get what you need as you usually do, Mom?" By this point, I had developed some resistance to my mother-in-law's unreasonable demands and could retort back if she threw a word or two my way. "Well, summoning an old woman like me, what a cold-hearted daughter-in-law you are." As expected, my mother-in-law raised her voice very dramatically. I let out a sigh. Looking out the window, the outside was gloomy and dark. It looked like it was about to rain any moment. All right, I'll head over there in a bit." Saying that nonchalantly, I ended the call. I wasn't sure what she needed, but I could easily imagine that it was some minor chore, like always, a burnt-out light bulb, a bathtub that needed cleaning. I sped up the folding of the laundry, changed into something more comfortable, and headed over to my mother-in-law's place. Upon arrival, I was greeted by my mother-in-law. "Took you long enough." However, she seemed unusually cheerful. Mom, do you have guests over?" I tilted my head as I saw a pair of leather shoes and pumps neatly arranged at the entrance.
Yes, there's someone I want you to meet.
I was puzzled even more, but as I followed my mother-in-law into the living room, I found my husband, who was supposed to be at work, and an unfamiliar woman. Moreover, the woman had a noticeably large belly.
Come on, have a seat.
Prompted by my mother-in-law, I sat down. I thought you were at work? Bypassing the woman for the moment, my husband scratched his cheek awkwardly as I addressed him.
I took a paid day off. I have something I need to talk to you about today, and I asked Mom for help.
Is it about this lady? As I glanced at her, the woman was peeling an orange with a calm expression and munching on it. In contrast, my husband paled, trembled, and bowed his head deeply.
I got her pregnant. She's due in 3 months, and she says she wants to keep the baby, so I want a divorce.
When I saw the woman's belly, I had more or less guessed.
I couldn't bring myself to tell you, and while I was procrastinating, her belly kept growing.
Seeing that, my husband pathetically apologized and asked for a divorce. I let out a big sigh. Who was that apology for? It was an apology to push through his own demands, not an apology to me. Knowing that, I couldn't hold back the sadness that welled up inside me. Were you not thinking about Wendy? How could you interact with Wendy while you were having an affair? This was something I had said to my husband when we were in a terrible state due to his previous affair. But I told you to think about Wendy, not me. If you ever feel like having an affair again, didn't I? My husband adored our daughter. That's why I cried and told him that his affair would not only hurt me, but also our beloved daughter, but it seems it didn't deter him at all. This isn't an affair, it's real love. A gentle voice interrupted the conversation between my husband and me. The woman he cheated with was looking at us with a calm smile. Reynolds always told me that he loved me more than his wife and daughter. That's why I could get pregnant with a boy that his mother desired as a symbol of our love. Saying that, she smiled. And while saying right, she stroked her belly. Her audacity was so outrageous that I was more flabbergasted than angry. I couldn't believe he dared to say something like that in this situation. Then, my silent mother-in-law decided to speak up.
Well, unlike you, Marcia is young, gentle, and kind-hearted. I completely support your divorce.
Turns out, the mistress's name was Marcia. I would think a kind-hearted young lady wouldn't go getting herself pregnant with a married man's child. I muttered this under my breath, and my mother-in-law glared at me in irritation.
Enough out of you. You're done here. You only give birth to girls, so just get divorced and leave quickly.
My mother-in-law, shooing me away with a wave of her hand, shouted at me. My husband wouldn't meet my eyes, and Marcia stroked her pregnant belly with a victorious grin. I understand about the divorce. I will take care of Wendy. I felt as if I was being driven out, and I ran out of my in-laws' house. As expected, it had started to rain outside. I had brought an umbrella when I came, but I had left it at the entrance of my in-laws' house. That was my favorite one too. But at this point, I didn't care about such things. I let out a dry laugh and began my walk home in the rain. The divorce proceeded uneventfully, and before I knew it, 3 months had passed. My ex-husband was reluctant to part with our daughter, but he seemed to understand the gravity of his actions, and in the end agreed to my demands for alimony and child support. He seems to have prepared the alimony by selling the condo we lived in. I was mentally and physically exhausted, but thanks to the lawyer my dad introduced me, the process was quicker than I had anticipated. My main concern was my daughter, but she continued to smile at me even after the divorce. I knew she was trying to put on a brave face for me. We were staying at my parents' house for now, and she was still going to the same school, but depending on where we would live and my job, we might have to consider switching schools. My daughter seemed to understand this, but I knew she felt differently inside. There is nothing more heartbreaking than seeing your child suffer because of a parent's selfish actions. I spent my days looking for a new home and a job within my daughter's school district, trying my best to keep her from feeling lonely. That's when I received a call from my ex-husband. I had left him my contact information in case of issues regarding child support. Depending on the matter, I was planning to hang up on him, but I answered the call. As soon as I picked up, he started panicking.
The color of our baby's eyes.
I was taken aback by the abruptness of his statement. We agreed you wouldn't contact me unless it's about child support or something necessary. I tried to reply calmly.
That's not the point. I've been deceived.
I could have ignored him and hung up, but I was curious about what he was talking about, so I decided to listen.
The baby that was born has black eyes and black hair too.
To make a long story short, Marcia had apparently given birth recently, but it seemed that the baby's lineage was definitely not American. By the way, it seemed that the baby was indeed a boy. I had heard that he had married Marcia immediately after our divorce, and I had to restrain myself from laughing.
Marcia was seeing multiple men besides me. One of them was apparently Japanese. I can't believe it.
My ex-husband was expressing his anger as if he were the victim. Continuing, he vented out his frustrations.
This is a scam. When I threatened to sue, they said they picked me because I seem to have the most money. Can you believe it? It's too much.
Neither my ex-husband, his mother, nor the woman who gave birth herself probably ever imagined it would come to this. But ultimately, it's karma. So I have no sympathy. What, you're seeing this? At my worst, my ex-husband is clearly taken aback, and I can't help but smirk. Did this man think I was going to console him? Well, cheaters don't belong together, don't they? What does it matter if their eyes are black? It's undoubtedly the boy your dear mother wished for. At my words, my ex-husband is visibly shaken.
But I'm planning to break up with Marcia. I was hoping we could get back together.
I hold my head in my hands as my ex-husband stammers out a request for a remarriage.
Mom also thinks it would be a good idea.
At this unwarranted addition, my anger explodes. I hope you live happily with your wife, who is just like your dear mother and your cute black-haired, black-eyed baby. By the way, it seems you have forgotten, but if the baby was delivered safely, I'll be claiming damages for the affair from Marcia. Be prepared for that. I spit out those words, hang up the phone, and promptly switch off my mobile. I originally intended to wait until Marcia gave birth to demand damages out of consideration for the baby. This call let me know the baby has been born, so it's a good time. But at the same time, I feel a growing sense of danger at my ex-husband's suggestion for reconciliation. Until now, I have been looking for a place to live and work in this area to prevent my daughter from having to switch schools. But I'm starting to think it might be better to move to a place out of their reach. That evening, I was having dinner with Mom and my daughter. Dad hasn't come home from work yet. My daughter is excited to watch anime together when Grandpa comes home. Even Mom is looking forward to it, saying, "Maybe Grandma should join in too." Our peaceful moment is abruptly interrupted by the sudden ringing of the intercom. Wondering who it could be at this hour, I peek at the screen to see my ex-husband and his mother. "Wendy, stay with Grandma for a bit." I leave my daughter with Mom and open the front door, leaving the chain on. There is a loud click as the door opens forcefully. I'm glad I left the chain on. Just as I think this, I hear a clicking sound and see my ex-husband's mother peeking in. Behind her, my ex-husband stands with a downcast face.
Ray's offering to take you back and you turned him down?
Ray is my ex-husband. His mother has been calling him that since he was a child, it seems.
You don't have a chance of getting remarried with a child. Don't you understand Ray's kindness?
Mind your own business. You have a new daughter-in-law who gave birth to your long-awaited grandson with black hair and black eyes. Get along with her. At my words, mother-in-law's face turned red.
If I knew she was that kind of woman, I would have put up with you.
Pushing mother-in-law aside, my ex-husband now reaches out from the gap in the door.
Emmeline, I truly regret what I did. I was deceived too. Let's build a happy family together this time.
At the front door, my ex-husband rattled the doorknob, crying, pleading, while my irate ex-mother-in-law shouted at him. I was at a loss as to what to do in this bizarre situation, but then an unexpected person managed to silence them both.
Dad, you guys always pick on Mom. I hate you.
When I turned around, my daughter was standing there with tears in her eyes. Mom, running up from behind her, was trying to keep her away from the door. In Mom's hand was her smartphone. "Your father and our lawyer are on their way over." It turned out she had been in touch with my dad and the lawyer who had helped me during the divorce. Wendy must have taken advantage of the chaos to come over to my place. I felt a little relieved at Mom's words. I was honestly scared of the intense energy the two were exuding, almost as if they would break in any moment. Wendy, why don't you wait over there with Grandma? But Wendy stubbornly shook her head.
I'll protect Mommy. I hate Daddy and his friend,
she declared, bursting into tears. I couldn't help but tear up at the sight and pulled her into my arms. My ex-mother-in-law and ex-husband just stood there dumbstruck. All of their prior aggression seemed to vanish, leaving their faces void of any life. Wendy's words had hit them hard. While all this was going on, Dad and the lawyer finally arrived, and to top it off, a police car showed up as well. It seems the neighbors had called the police.
Reynolds, your daughter will never be with you again. If you truly regret what you have done, then you know what you should be doing, and it's not this.
I spoke up after Dad standing before my ex-husband and mother-in-law. Please don't hurt Wendy anymore. I won't ever comply with your demands. I never want to be involved with you again. My words, followed by Dad's, seemed to hit them hard. They grimaced, nodded, and quietly got into the police car. The lawyer assured us,
I'll take stricter measures to ensure this never happens again.
He would be dealing with the compensation for Marcia, my ex-husband's mistress, among other things. I deeply bowed my head in gratitude for his forthcoming assistance. I later heard that my ex-husband ended up divorcing Marcia and suing her. Marcia had apparently turned to the Japanese father of her baby for help. While he had accepted the baby, it turns out he already had a family and his wife forced Marcia to leave. Now, Marcia faces demands for compensation not only from me and my ex-husband, but also from the wife of her baby's father. I can't help but worry about her future and hope for the best for her child. My ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law are now the talk of the neighborhood, leading a miserable life together. My ex-husband has increased his overtime to pay the child support and remaining compensation, working like a horse but making sure to pay on time. As for me and Wendy, we have moved to a place where we have no connection with my ex-husband and his mother. Thanks to an old contact, I have found work again, and Wendy is enjoying her new school and making friends. I am determined to live a strong life. Looking forward to watching my daughter grow up.